Football fans, Gooners, welcome to another edition of the Positively Uncensored Arsenal podcast. And as usual, my co-pilot, my expert and friend, Blackburn George. How you doing, my friend?
Fantastic.
Well, George, it's another looking like a sunny day in the Caribbean. The cocks are crowing. If you can hear them in the background.
It's miserable here.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose I'm really the relative lap of luxury. Temperatures are going to be close to 90s today. But let's do the business here, George. Yesterday again was another classic performance. Your match report by Bergkamp was immaculate. He said he were clinical and precise in dismantling Crystal Palace. I entirely agree with him. And the stats do not belie the domination of Crystal Palace. What were your immediate post-match thoughts? Were you along the same lines as Bergkamp? Because obviously he got a chance to reflect on the game before he started writing. Go ahead, George.
I couldn't have been happier, really. Fantastic performance. I was watching City yesterday, the day before.
Yes.
Demolishing Burnley. And Burnley were playing well, actually. And City destroyed them. And I was thinking to myself, oh God, how are we gonna compete with this team in the run-in? You know, they're coming in form. And then I watched us play yesterday, and I thought, well, that's how we're going to compete because we're playing just as well as they are. So, yeah, it was a hugely exciting and entertaining game for me because we won so comfortably. I love it when we win quite comfortably. And I know people, you like a last-minute winner and all the rest of it, but I like to be relaxing by half time.
Well, and I think we went 2 goals up by halftime. My memory serves me right. It's not the best of memory these days, George. But I have the stats up, and we totally in terms of possession, yes, obviously, exceeded them 62 against 38. But what strikes me, George, is our conversion rate. We had 15 shots and we had 4 goals, right? That's a 26% conversion. If we had to take anything from those stats, can you take anything from those stats, George? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, we are. Saka and Martinelli both have very high conversion rates for such young players.
Yes.
I mean, just yesterday. I mean, in general, and that's the difference between a team playing well. Let's say a Brighton that control games and play nice football, but don't score many.
Right.
That's the only difference. Your front players and our front players are doing it week in, week out. I mean, some of those goals yesterday were a joy to behold. If any of Arsene Wenger team that had played like that, we'd be salivating. I think we have to give credit.
We'd be salivating after George. We would be drooling like dogs. Go ahead.
We have to give credit to how entertaining it is, as well as how effective it is. I like to be entertained. I love points, but I like to be entertained as well. And this team's doing both. And the worry is, of course, that we're now 8 points clear and everybody's thinking, I mean, I see it on Twitter all the time, and I know Twitter's a cesspool for idiots.
Yes.
But they say, no, if we don't win it from here, it's a bottle job and all the rest of it. And I think to myself, realistically, we're one loss away from being second. I know that sounds stupid when we're 8 points, but what I'm saying is, let's say we lose to Liverpool, drop 3 points. We have to go to Manchester City and we don't win.
Yes.
City win the game in the end. We're a point behind.
Well,
And all we have to do is lose one game in addition to not losing to Manchester City. One game. That's all it is in it at the moment. It looks a lot on paper, 8 points, but the reality is it's one loss and losing the City game away from being second. Now we have to play Liverpool away. How often do we go up there and win?
Not often.
Not
Rarely.
very often.
Rarely.
2012, the last time or something.
Is that so?
I don't know. I can't remember off, but in my head, I'm just thinking of that Abu Dhabi game where he ruled the roost up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, we might have won since, but it's certainly not very often. And so we have to beat them. We have to play Chelsea, who are playing better. We have to go to Newcastle, who seem to have come out of the slump, and they seem to have a striker now who can actually put the ball in the back of the net. What I'm saying is, it's not easy. Our running is more difficult than Manchester City's. They've come into form. I mean, they're scoring for fun. So it's a dangerous situation because the 8 points makes it look like we're in the driving seat. And although we are basically in the driving seat, they're on your tail. They're in your slipstream. It's not like we're a lap in front of them. So I just think, and what gets me is the idea that if we lose from here, it'll be because we bottled it. That's not necessarily the case at all. I mean, you could play really well and lose to Manchester City. You could play well and lose to Liverpool.
And we have seen that.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you've bottled it, or even that you haven't played well. You know, they can be a sending off. There can be bad penalties. There can be injuries.
Yes.
So much. It's not 2 or 3 games to go. It's 10 games, and a lot of them are very difficult games. So, although it's exciting, we haven't to get too excited. And certainly not
George,
or overconfident.
Well, George, just by coincidence, you see how great minds think alike, fools seldom differ. But I did bring up a graphic. I did prepare a graphic of the next 3 games. We're at home to Leeds, who are fighting relegation. Then after that, the 9th of April, Easter weekend, we go to Liverpool, as you mentioned. And then West Ham turn up at our place the following week.
No, we're at West Ham.
Yes, that's the schedule.
Yeah, we're away at West Ham. They don't come.
Yeah, we are away to West Ham. I'm sorry, my apologies. Yes, we are away to West Ham, which could be,
they're fighting for the lives.
It could further cement. Just a minute, George. It could further cement our place in the record books. 9 London will be a 10th London derby, or they could come to burst our bubble. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be fighting for their lives. I mean, looking at the way we've played this season and the way they've played this season, we should be winning that game.
Yes.
The atmosphere at their place is a bit poor at the moment. They're under the cosh. So we should win that. But it's not a gimme game. Do you know what I mean? That same squad was in a European place last season.
Yes.
Or not that same squad. A worse squad was than they have now was in a European place.
Yeah, they try to improve, and we're not seeing it. But sometimes it takes and we can profess. Sometimes it takes a while for a team to gel.
Right. I mean, I've learned that. One thing that I've learned in the last 2.5 years is that don't look at the evidence. Don't look at what's in front of your eyes. Just have faith.
No,
I mean,
George.
I judged Mikel Arteta on what I was saying, which was coming eighth back to back, and one season having to win the last game of the season, not to come 11th. Some of the best players the club's ever had being chucked out and discarded, losing money hand over fist on transfers, slow paint by numbers football that was horrible to watch. Some of the worst teams beating us that hadn't beat us for decades. Mm-hmm. And I judged Mikel Arteta on that. Foolish me. I'll never do that. I'll never make that mistake again. I'm a faith man from now on, Shotta. I'm just going to believe in every manager and every player 100%. Get behind them. Ignore what I'm seeing in front of me. Faith. That's for me now. And I might even start going to church.
George, I know the sarcasm, but Crystal Palace and Steve Parish never showed any faith in Patrick Vieira. I was shocked.
I think that's
literally that they just
decision.
Go ahead, George.
I think that's a terrible decision. I mean, no, Zaha has been injured for quite a period. And even when he comes back, he doesn't look fully fit. They've had a horrendous run of fixtures. They don't play anybody now in the last 10 games that's above them in the league, I don't think.
Right.
All the easier games have to come.
Right.
And the 12th.
Exactly. And they're still 12th after yesterday.
Still 12th after yesterday. And all these easy games to come. And they've set the guy that got them there and who they were all raving about last season. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. I mean, obviously we have a loyalty to Patrick because he's one of the greatest invincibles, but as a neutral, I would be looking at that thinking, wow, that's a fuck up.
But when you contrast that with exactly what you said, I mean, 2.5 years of mediocrity by Arsenal, let's just put it that way, George. And you get Patrick Vieira, he doesn't have the same budget, and you just fire him, and you're thinking of bringing back Hodgson. That's the worst part about it.
They were 20th in spending. They were the lowest spenders in the transfer window.
Yes.
And they lost Gallagher, who was their star player
right
on loan last season.
Right.
They didn't replace him. And I don't get it. I just don't see the logic. I don't understand it. But it's Steve Parish's money, I suppose. He can do what he wants.
Yeah, and he takes the under 21. It didn't make a difference yesterday. As a matter of fact,
Well, yesterday, I don't know. I was watching it, and for the first 15 minutes, the commentators on my stream were saying how well Palace were doing and how well organised they looked and how hard it was and how much closing down they were doing. They weren't giving us an inch of space. And all of a sudden, when we beat them quite comfortably, it's revised and they were playing crap from the off and we were always going to beat them anyway and we've not achieved much by doing that. You know, hindsight's a wonderful thing if you're a commentator. And all the pundits now are saying how bad Palace were and how poor it is with Vieira not in charge. But yesterday, for the first half an hour, they were singing the praises.
And they absolutely did, George. And, I thought it was even Stevens in the beginning. Olise, they tried to attack down on the right side, and Olise was stopped by Zinchenko. I was quite impressed taking the ball away from him. But the boy Olise, I was impressed by him even so because he was very athletic. I remember him losing the ball and catching up with I think it was Zinchenko himself or Martinelli. I couldn't believe that. But, they were looking good. But to me, their weakness, the first goal, and it was there from the beginning, was that Zaha was their strength and their weakness. They were really just cool. I was going to use a slang. But they had Zaha lying in wait, and as usual, they were going to try to freeze Zaha on his side, but he is a risky guy because even the first goal where Holding got the ball, he stood up waiting on a pass and the ball didn't get to him. Holding snatched it and passed it to Ben White, who interchanged with who eventually the ball went over to Martinelli. But that's where it started, and I'm like, you're gonna lose this game if Zaha thinks that he's gonna just stand up and we're going to watch him dominate just like he did in past games that they won. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but then again, I don't think he's 100% fit. So how can you expect? You can't really expect him. It's not his game anyway to be closing down. I think
no, he doesn't. He doesn't. But you're playing.
If you've got a player like that, you have to set up accordingly. You have to have your midfielders coming across to cover because he's not going to do it. There's no point thinking, well, he hasn't done it. Well, he's not going to fucking do it.
Yes.
What are you complaining about? That's not what he's in the fucking team for. And I know players like that now are becoming a rarity, but he's the star man. I mean, but he's not scored for 10 games. So,
well, I thought that he was there. I thought he was there as their star player. He represented a weakness and also a threat, obviously, because he had a couple of chances, including that one in the second half that would have made it 2-1. Right? It could have been a different game altogether. And it's screwed by the or 3-1 or 3-2. I don't remember what it was. Yeah, 3-2, I think. And it
wasn't an easy chance, that lot. This is another thing that sort of annoys me, really. You see them, that shot that went past, you think, oh, that was a chance. Ramsdale's positioning means that if it had been on target, he would probably have saved it.
Yes.
It looks worse when it flashes across because you think, oh, well, that could have gone in. But you have to think that the goalkeeper was there.
Yeah, unlike...
It wasn't that... what I'm saying is it wasn't that narrow angle with the goalkeeper where he was. It's unlikely that he would have scored had he got it on target. It just looked like he should have scored because it went wide. But if it hadn't gone wide, Ramsdale would probably got a hand to it anyway.
And what about Martinelli's chance? You think it was bad positioning by the goalkeeper? I mean...
No, he just leathered it that hard.
Yes.
It was past him in a flash. And coming off his wrong foot, he probably wasn't expecting it.
Yes. Yes, for his wrong foot. For his wrong foot.
You don't stop those goals. You don't stop those goals at all. I mean, what I've done all my life is teach martial arts. And the hand is quicker than the eye. And I keep telling people that. The hand is quicker than the eye. You can't, someone can't stop something if the reaction time is too slow. And it doesn't mean that the goalkeeper can have a really fast reaction time, but the reaction time is still a time. And if the ball's past you before you've time to react, it looks bad because it's just shot past you. You think, well, why didn't you get a hand to that? Because physically you can't, it's not possible to do it. And that's why players like Alan Shearer and scored so many goals, because they thundered the ball. And it's not a case of the goalkeeper was in the wrong place or had a bad game. They just cannot react quick enough.
Yes.
And Martinelli hit that ball so well that there isn't a goalkeeper in the world who can react quick enough to save a shot like that.
Yes, it was. I mean, for his left-footed shot, I was impressed, George. I mean, it was, and I think that Arteta really did a bang-up job there when he went public and wrapped his arms around, because he missed a penalty against Sporting, and it was
a penalty as well, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
The George, a year before, I think we should remind people, a year before they beat us 3-0, and I know you mentioned that, and that was the start of a three-game streak of losses, right? You know that, but that was a way. And you mentioned this already, but I don't know this team. You know, you and I were gloating about our performance against Fulham before, but I don't know if I George, I can't see a three-game slump. I'm sorry, George. I know we mentioned this before, but you know, you say it's close. How much of a chance there is? I mean, let me tell you why I can't see a three-game slump. The quality of our bench, George, and well, two things: the quality of our last year. This time we were fooling around with well, Alba was already gone, but we were fooling around with Lacazette. Pepe was on the fringes. This year we're talking about Gabriel Jesus recovering, coming back from injury, a much improved Martinelli, a much improved Saka. We're talking about a midfield where Jorginho is coming off the bench. Partey is playing well. Xhaka had got the goal that he should have gotten against Fulham, even though he scruffed it, George. I overconfidence is always a threat, but I'm not sure I can see a three-game losing streak like we had last year, April, when we lost.
I don't think we'll have a three-game losing streak.
Mm-hmm.
But we were competing for fourth place then against teams that were marginally better than us. Spurs, basically. Not Manchester City. We're competing against Manchester City.
Yes.
So you think about it. Put you on the spot. Do you think we'll go to City and win?
No.
You think we'll go to and lose?
Yes.
Yes, right.
And by the way, George.
So when we're now, let's assume that they win the game in hand, because they don't look like losing it at all, do they?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're 2 points in front. If you accept that. 2 points. Think we'll go to Liverpool and win?
They are playing better, and they're recovering from injuries.
What do you think we'll go to Liverpool and win?
I would be very happy with a draw.
Yeah. So let's say we draw. We're level on points, and they've got a better goal difference. So
it doesn't take
you don't have to lose 3 games to Mugs, where you only have to lose to Manchester City and not beat Liverpool, and it's level points, and they've got a better goal difference than us.
And it's squeaky bum time.
So where's the confidence coming from?
Oh, the overconfidence.
Yeah, where's the goal? I don't understand it, mate. It's if we didn't have to play Manchester City at Manchester City, I would feel completely different. But we do. We do. I mean, we're the bloody rubbing rags for the last 3 years, aren't we?
Yes.
So, and we played well against them twice.
I still lost.
At home this season and last season, and we lost both games.
Yes, and still lost.
I still lost. Playing well.
Yes.
And one of those games, they didn't play very well at all. Now, we're going to go and beat them at Manchester City. We're not favourites. We're not. Not for that game. They're heavy odds-on favourites to beat us there. So that just one game that we drop points. One game we draw between now and the end of the season. Apart from that game, and we could be behind.
You can't help yourself being objective, George. Where's all that faith-based thing that you just spoke about earlier? You're incorrigible.
You know,
that's reality, George. That's a reality, George.
But you can look at it another way.
Yes.
You can say Manchester City play Liverpool next. Liverpool have done well against Manchester City.
They do. Yes.
And done well against them at Manchester City as well. They might beat them. If they beat them and we beat Leeds, now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Yes.
You know, they've still to win all their games It's not a given that they're going to win bloody. And I think they've won the last 3 games, have they?
Yes, they have. I was looking at it.
It's not a given that they're going to win the next 10. I think there's only twice that they've won more than 2 games all season back to back.
Yes.
So it's not a given that they're going to win the next 10 games, but they look good, don't they? I mean, fucking hell.
I see Pep. I saw a little thing on my YouTube where Pep was saying they have to win all their games and we have to drop points, and he was rubbing his bald head. Just sounds like he's quite concerned, and talking about how the World Cup and all has left his best players weary. And one day he was moaning like a drain.
Fucker. with that threadbare thin squad that he's put together on a shoestring as well. Yeah. You got to feel for him, haven't you?
I do indeed. Yes, but George, I think in the midst of all this outburst of enthusiasm, I think your faith-based restraint is welcoming. Well, let's leave that, George. I don't think we can add any more to this. I think it's very happy to be. I'm very happy to be 8 points ahead. I don't know about it's better to be 8 points ahead.
Absolutely, and we're playing well.
Yes,
and it doesn't look like we're going to crumble. We look a great team. It's fantastic to watch. But
why we're not.
Let's not get overexcited. Yeah. We're competing against who, in my opinion, is the best team, certainly the best squad in the world, if not the best team in the world. Right. And
I want to interject this. But the reason why I think we don't look like crumbling is because we're no longer in Europe. It's a mixed blessing because the top team wants to be in both competitions, but
it's
remember in the historical past, with our threat, with our Arsene Wenger squads in the Champions League and in the league, we sometimes ran out of gas.
Well, it would have been nice to win the Europa League, but those extra games, injuries that might have come from it, tiredness.
Yes.
1 game a week. It's like Leicester, if you remember back to Leicester.
Right.
1 game a week. They had all week to prepare for it. And now so have we. So, fortunately, I think we've got a decent game coming back against Leeds.
Right.
So it's not the hardest of games, even though it's away from home and Ellen Road can be an intimidating place. But it's not the hardest of games. And if we can get over that and get everybody fit and firing and a week to prepare for every game, I think... look, we've got a great chance. We would have, if you'd have told us this at the beginning of the season, we'd have bitten your arm off at the shoulder.
Right. I'm looking up here for Leeds. Leeds did well over the weekend. Let me just check Leeds. Leeds beat Wolves 4-2, George. They look very nippy, back to their own self. But I don't think they have. I don't think they haven't the players to beat us. Anyway, George, on that note, I think we have a break next week. No?
Yeah.
International break, or is it FA Cup break? FA Cup break?
International.
Well, that's good. Well, we can time for reflection.
Can I just say one thing as well before we go?
Yes.
Do you think Jesus gets back in the team?
That's a very difficult one. You see, the problem is Leandro Trossard looks undroppable, George. I mean, that's the assist to Xhaka yesterday. I mean, it was just wonderful. One-time ball, right? Perfect. Weight on the ball.
He's getting goals and assists every game.
Yes.
So, do you drop him?
You can't drop Saka. You can't drop Saka.
You can't drop Martinelli. You can't drop Odegaard.
No. I don't want to be in Mikel Arteta's position. He's an embarrassment of
No,
riches.
because they've been going on for 3 months about how difficult it's going to be without Jesus, and now it's looking like it's going to be difficult for him to get back in the team.
He's a good player to come off the bench, though, because
What
he
a
came
turn
on
of
and created
events
havoc.
that is.
Pardon?
What a turn of events that is.
Yes, it is. But he's a good player to come off the bench. I mean, he wreaked havoc when the final goal, he was dribbling across and then passed to Tierney. Tierney went cross. And George, I haven't said it, but those two, all the shots that Saka took were one time, no hesitation. And I was low, hard to the goalkeeper's right. It was unsavable, like you said. The hand is faster than the eye. In this case, his feet. I was impressed by both shots. And some of our best supporters like Baisu and so on always been concerned about him tailing off towards the end of the season. I hope he doesn't tail off.
No, I don't think he looks like he's going to tail off. His tail's up, not off.
Yes. All right, George. Well, let's leave it at that. But one last note, George. Did you notice that our viewership came right back down to earth?
Well, it did and it didn't. It wasn't ridiculous like it was last week, but it's still a lot up on what it was.
Yes, it was. It was ending up at.
Well, thank you, everybody.
That's the point I want to make, George. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah,
do try and comment.
Two old guys nattering on. Yes, and we are very happy, and and encourage you again to subscribe, get our subscription up, and we love the support. I mean, it may be modest, but it makes our getting up early, nattering on, at least in my case, worth it. Thank you, George.
Thank you. See you all.
See you all, and like and subscribe.